Hello and welcome to CAS Education Week, and today's topic we're going to discuss company registrations and purchasing constitutions directly from CAS 360. I have put a link in the chat which will direct you to the CAS 360 help, and it'll have all the notes on what we're showcasing today. I'm going to start with just the housekeeping rules before we jump into the content. You are going to be placed on listen only mode. However, if you do have any questions through today's session, please use the Q&A box. And I do have a number of colleagues listening in ready to take your questions at any stage. I also want to point out that this webinar is being recorded and will be available on the BGL community. So we have celebrated CAS 360 Education Week. We're getting to the pointy end now with only one live session left, but if you have missed any of those sessions, they are available on the BGL community, as I previously mentioned. So definitely have a look at some of those sessions and you'll be able to upskill your CAS 360 knowledge. Let's take a look at today's agenda. I'm going to show what prerequisites are required when you're incorporating a company. We'll talk about the pre-incorporation documents and focus in on the Form 201. We're going to have a look at the post-incorporation document report pack as well and discuss the Form 362. And finally, I'll show you how you can connect with our partners and purchase a company constitution. Let's start from the start and have a look at the prerequisites before we can actually utilize the features in CAS 360 to incorporate a company. And first off the ranks, I want to just mention that the digital certificate requirements have been removed by Asic. So there used to be some requirements where you'd have to obtain a digital certificate from a third party and upload that certificate into CAS 360 to Lodgement 201. Now that has been removed and it's made the barriers to the entry or barriers to enter into this particular market a lot accessible and easier for everyone. However, you will need to lodge an agent form, which is the RA04 Direct Debit Request. Now this is a once-off form, just to set up a direct debit with Asic. Unfortunately, this document can't be lodged electronically, but it can be prepared in CAS 360, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. The final prerequisite is that your directors will need to provide their director IDs. Now, it is free to apply for this director ID. I have just got a timeline as to when this director ID is required, and the ABRS website is, and I've got the link in the slides, which will be available with the recording. So it's a great website that just details all the information that you need to know on director identification numbers. And given that we're going to set up a company today, and it's past April 5th, we will need the director ID before the appointment. So if you do have any companies that you are incorporating, you will need their director IDs before you can proceed with the Form 201. I also want to mention that it is an ID that's unique to the director, and if they've previously been set up in other companies, you may have that ID already on file. So just keep that in mind as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to flick into CAS. So I'm just going to switch screens and open up CAS 360. And the first thing that I want to show you is the RA04. And that form is to set up a direct debit with Asic. And to generate this form, you just need to head over to Prepare Agent Forms and select the drop-down. And you'll see from the list there that we've got a direct debit request. You may have already done this for other forms. So if you're lodging 205s, 410s, or the 6010, you may have this already previously lodged. So I'll show you how you can check in CAS whether or not you've got that set up. But it's a straightforward process of putting in your credit limit. So say that you've got your daily limit, and we're going to say it's $1,000. You're going to say that you're going to use it for company registration, and then you just have to put in your banking details. So let's just put in some random numbers for training. And we've got who the account holder is. So I'm going to prepare the forms. And the first thing that I want to show you once you've gone into the document production screen, and I did mention this before, that the RA04 can't be lodged electronically. So you will need to lodge this with Asic. You can see here that we've got our form RA04, and I can now download this document. And you can see there that it has pre-filled the information for me based on what's been entered into CAS 360. And I can now get this signed by the account holder and deliver this to Asic just by following the instructions on the form. Now, Asic will obviously provide a validation through the mail that this has been accepted as well. So what happens once you've got your direct debit set up? Well, you need to go to your settings screen and find your agent. You might have multiple agent accounts, but find the agent that it relates to and select edit. And once you scroll to the bottom, you'll see there that there's a toggle that you'll need to enable for the Asic direct debit. So you would just flick that to yes and hit the save key. So you've now enabled that direct debit with Asic. Okay, so we now have ticked that off the list for our prerequisites. Our director has provided our director ID. And we want to now start the application for company registrations. Now, to initiate the registrations in CAS 360, I'm going to go to the main menu and select company. And I'm going to work off the second tab there known as company registrations. This is going to show all the registrations that you've started, lodged, or are in the process of completing. So all your registrations will live in this screen. You do have some advanced filters as well. So if you've got a number of registrations that you're working through, you do have those advanced filters to filter through the information. And you do have a search as well on the right-hand side where you can narrow down the results to the company name that you're registering. Now, to initiate the Incorporations wizard, all you need to do is click on the company registrations button. And you'll see there that it populates a screen to get you started. The first thing we need to do is select the jurisdiction that it relates to. And we're discussing Australian jurisdiction today. So we'll select Australia and we'll continue to the company registration screen. Now, this will open up a wizard for you to work through these 6 points on the left-hand side. And at the end of that stage, you'll be able to generate your Form 201. Now, I want to mention that you don't have to do everything in one hit. So you could put in the details today and hit save and close and come back to that information later on. Okay, so when you do hit save and close, it will form part of your list. Okay, so the information that you've put in will form part of your list and you can come back to that work at a later stage. Okay, so you don't have to do the process in one sweep. You can always come back to it at a later stage. So here's one I prepared earlier, and you can see here that my lodgement button isn't there and my buy constitution button isn't there either. So what I want to do is I want to actually have a look at this application. So I navigate across to the options menu and I select it, and I'm going to click on edit. Now you do have two other options here. You could delete the application, or you could copy the company and create another record. Okay, so you can see there that you can create a copy of the information that you've previously provided. But I want to edit what we've already put into the screen. So I'm going to click the edit button. Now, when you're putting in a company name, so I've pre-filled most of this information, so we're not going to just focus on the data entry and talk more about the process. Now, when you're putting in the name, CAS 360 will automatically check whether or not the name is available. So you can see there that we've got the green tick, and Asic has determined that I Love BGL Pty Ltd is currently available. So we're a privately listed, a private company, and that name is available. We've got a couple of other options here in our details screen, so let's discuss them. Would you like to use the ACN as a company name? So if you don't want to be creative and create your own company name, you can flag that you want to actually use the ACN instead. So once the company has been incorporated, it will be the ACN of the company followed by the legal abbreviations, whether or not you just want Pty Ltd in the actual name to follow after the ACN. So that is an option for you. Just going to flick that to no, and that we do want to actually provide a company name. We've got another question here as well when we're working through the wizard, just to ensure that we're not missing anything. Has the company name been reserved with Asic? So have we lodged a 410 to reserve that company name? And if we have lodged that 410, you can see there that we can select the applicant name and the reservation number from the 410. Okay, so if you do reserve a name, then you can obviously utilize this field here. If you're not reserving the name, then obviously you can proceed to the next step. We've got another question that we need to flick through. Is the name identical to a registered business name? Once again, if it is, you can flag yes, and then just provide the ABN. Finally, we've got the company information. So it's a small proprietary, and you can see there that we've got drop-down menus to change that if applicable. It's limited by chairs. And you can see there that we've got a company subclass, and you may be registering maybe a superannuation trustee company, so a special purpose company, and you can just simply select that off the list if that is the case. Now, this is an important step, which is the governance, and this is the first step in purchasing your constitution. Now, every company must have rules that govern how it operates. The Corporations Act does provide basic rules, and they're known as the replaceable rules. To make your own rules or vary the replaceable rules, that's where you need to purchase a constitution, or you may have your own company constitution that is applicable to your incorporations. So we're going to say that this company has a constitution, and I'm going to show you how to purchase that constitution from one of our partners. So we're going to switch that governance to that particular option. Our next step to finish off the details screen is that we're going to say that it's incorporated in Victoria. Now, if I wanted to save and close this for the next rainy day in Melbourne, which would probably be tomorrow, I can just click the save and close. But I'm going to continue the application and move on to the next, which is addresses. So there's two main addresses that we need to notify Asic of. We've got the registered office, and this is where correspondence is going to be sent. And we've got a question here whether or not the premise is occupied by someone other than the company. So that's going to generate the occupier's consent. And if no one else is occupying, obviously you just flick that toggle to no. Then we've got the business address, and this is the place of business for the company. So once again, it's just a matter of selecting that tag, or should I say that field, and populating the address. The final question for in the addresses area is whether or not the company has an ultimate holding company. Another word for that is a parent company. So if there is a parent company, we would flag that to yes, and we can put in the details of the company. Okay, so what is the holding company name? What's the ACN? And what was the place of incorporation? I'm going to switch that off and we're going to go to next. And this is going to open up our officers screen. And I've previously entered in an officer just to make life easier so it doesn't turn into a data entry training. And we can see there that John David Brown has been entered. He's a director. He's going to be signing our documents. If I had to add another director, and we know that private companies must have at least one director, and that one director should reside in Australia. But if there was another director, I can just hit the Add Officer button. And I just need to plug in the officer name. So it's going to do a search on the contacts database that you currently have. And if the search obviously doesn't return the result, you can add the person. And by default, the system will throw suggestions at you. So previously used persons or most used in your database. So in this case here, we're just going to opt with Homer Simpson. Now, this is where I want to draw your attention to CAS 360, doing checks for you to ensure that you're not missing anything. And you can see here that the director ID hasn't been entered for Homer J. Simpson. And I won't be able to proceed until I actually click there and enter in the director ID. So you can see there that I can put in the director ID and save. So I've got that 15-digit number entered. I'm selecting the position for Homer J. Simpson and his meeting status, and I can save that. So you can see now that I've got another officer in my screen. No errors have been found. So all the data in my contacts database, I've got a date of birth, place of birth, and so forth. We're looking for all that information. And if there is anything missing, we're going to be able to tell you before you move on to the next task. So everything is passed and I can click on next. And we move on to our shareholders screen. So very similar to what you saw with the officers screen. And I've previously plugged in one shareholder. And if I had to add an additional shareholder, I can just hit add shareholder. And once again, you're working through adding that particular shareholder to the database. So we can add Homer. We can say that he's getting ordinary shares. We'll say he's getting 10 shares, and we can save that. So you can see there that we've got our two shareholders now. If I've made a mistake, you can see there on the options menu, I can simply click on options and delete. So I haven't created any forms at this stage. I'm just working through the wizard to put in the data, and the end result, when we get up to finish, we'll be able to prepare the form 201. But we're just working through the wizard. So our shareholders are now up to date, and I'm going to click on next. And it brings me to our final question before review, and it's whether or not you want Asic to review the lodgement. Now, primarily you would flag this if there's something with the company name that needs to be reviewed. So that's the primary reason that you would flag that it needs to be reviewed. Okay, so you've got a creative word in the company name and it needs to be reviewed by Asic, you can flag that. Although Asic does tend to automatically flag that anyway. I'm going to click on next. And you'll see that it's just going to show me all the information that I've collated in those 5 tabs. If I do need to make any other changes, so I've found that I'm actually not going to purchase a constitution, I'll need to navigate back to that area. Okay, so I could go directly back to the details screen if I need to, just by selecting that with your cursor. You can see that I can navigate back. All right, so we've come to the end of the road with our wizard. And what we want to do now is prepare the incorporation documents. So these are the pre-incorporation documents. So I'm going to hit save and prepare. And it's going to bring me to my company, my document production screen. And you'll see here that if I want a cover letter to be included, I can flag that on. And we did have a previous session on how to customize your report packs and individual documents and letters in our prior session. So if you're unfamiliar on how to do that, definitely head to our community and have a look at that session that we ran. But the main thing that we want to have a look at here is our Form 201. So you can see there, if I click on it, this is just going to be a matter of flagging it. And you'll see there that it will populate the information for me. Okay, so everything is pre-filled based on that wizard. Now, when I export, if there's anything that I need to do, so I want to get this actually ready for lodgement. And the only way to get this ready for lodgement is either downloading it all or obviously sending it to your client to sign. So that's our next step, really. So we're going to hit download or send. And you can see there that there's a few things that I need to put in. So we do have these validations built into CAS 360 to ensure that we're properly pre-filling that Form 201. So I do need to select who the registered agent is. So we're going to use that drop-down menu, and it's going to use the data that we had in our settings screen. And I can save that. Once again, I'm going to click the download all button, and it's going to prepare that report pack for me. Now, what you'll notice as well is once you download those documents or you send it to your client to sign, so that 201 to be signed, you'll notice that a lodge button becomes active on that particular item or that transaction that you created, and the status is awaiting registration, okay? So here's the document report pack that we can deliver to our clients, and you can see now that the lodgement details have been pre-filled for us, and we just need to obviously get that signed by the director. So once that form has been signed, so you can see there that we've got the signature of the application. Now, once that's been signed, we'll be able to lodge that to Asic. Now, the turnaround time is a couple of minutes to get that acceptance back or that validation back from Asic. It's just a bit longer than a Form 484. If it doesn't come in, CAS does connect to Asic every 10 minutes. So it's only a matter of time that you do get that notification coming through whether or not that lodgement was accepted. So you should get that notification coming through as successful just by tracking your alerts at the top. Now, once you've lodged that Form 201, Asic will deduct the fee, and as of today, that's $512. So that is the Asic fee. So once again, that's $512. That would come out of your direct debit account. So that's why you need that direct debit account. I just want to point out as well, as of 1st of July, 2022, that fee is going to increase and it's going up to $538. Okay, so currently $512, and the Asic fee is climbing on the 1st of July to $538. And that will be deducted once that 201 has been accepted. Okay, so what's our next step? We've lodged that 201. So say that this has been lodged. Our next step is the prepare post-incorporation document. So I can't lodge it physically on this database given that it's a training database, but we have previously set up a company that has been lodged. And what will happen is that the status will change to registered. The company will also be in your company selection screen. So you've got the BGL training company coming across in your company selection screen once it is registered. And you'll notice that you've got post-incorporation documents enabled now. So these are other documents that you need to prepare. We'll talk about them in a second. And we've also got a buy constitution button enabled because we flagged that the company is going to have a constitution. So I'm going to select the buy constitution button just to showcase this feature. Now, what I want to point out is that you do need to have a direct debit set up in My BGL for this to become active. If not, you're going to be prompted before this screen to set up. It's just a link to My BGL to set up a direct debit with BGL. So you can see there, I've got My BGL open, and it's just a matter of going to your payment details screen and inputting some payment details to enable that direct debit with BGL. So that's for the constitutions only. Okay, so if you do want to buy a constitution from one of our partners, you will need to put in your direct debit information into My BGL. And you'll notice that we will bill you monthly for the constitutions that you purchase. So we do support LightYear docs and Smarter SMSF. And we do have a sample available from both those providers. So if you want to have a look at the particular constitution before you hit the purchase button, you can click on sample. And I've clicked on sample and it's downloaded the PDF for me. And you can see there that we've got a sample from Smarter SMSF, and we've got the constitution that would be used and pre-filled based on the information that you've entered into CAS. Okay, so there's the constitution that you can view. And you've got the same feature for LightYear docs. So how do you purchase it? You simply just click on the purchase button. And you can see the price there as well, okay? So it's $99, and that is controlled by our partners. So you've purchased your constitution. So that would be the next step, okay? So you've lodged the 201. Your next step would be to buy a constitution and then head to your prepare post-incorp documents. Now, what you'll have here is all the documents that you're required to send to your client. So the certificate registration will come through, all the registers, the share certificate, all that information that you need to send to your client post-registration. Now, we haven't purchased a constitution, but if you did purchase a constitution, that would be flagged and you'd be able to view the constitution as well from this screen. Okay, so you'll be able to click on that and view the constitution. Obviously, I haven't purchased one in this scenario. This is just showing the BGL standard constitution, and it's something that you would insert if you were customizing your own constitution. So once again, if you choose to customize your own constitution, have a look at our previous webinar on customization, and you'll be able to create your custom constitution in the settings area. So that's the other alternative. So let's focus your attention on the form that we need to prepare, which is the Form 362. And we know from our previous session on digital signing that you need to get the wet ink signature on that Form 362. So if you do use digital signing, you will not see that pen next to the 362 because we know that that cannot be digitally signed, but it does need to be prepared. And that form there is enabling you to be the registered agent for that particular company. Okay, so we can see there, we've got our Form 362. It's all been populated. and we just need our director to sign off on it. And how do we get that particular form ready for lodgement? Well, once again, we need to download the document, get our clients to sign, and then once we've received that document, we'll be able to lodge that to Asic. Okay. So we know now the post-incorporation documents. We know how to prepare the Form 362, and we will know that that 362 will live in our documents area. So if we went to our company screen, selected our company, and went into our document screen, all the documents we prepared for that company will be sitting in here as well. So I just wanted to point that out. Given this is a training database, that's why we don't see that. But all the forms you do generate from the 201 down to your Form 362 will live in your documents screen. So that concludes today's webinar on the process of obtaining or being able to prepare a Form 201 and incorporate documents in CAS 360, as well as purchasing constitutions from our partners. So I want to thank you for attending today. If you do have any questions, I'll leave the Q&A open so you'll be able to ask any questions to our experts listening in. Once again, I want to thank you for your time. And if you need to watch one of our sessions, don't forget to head to the BGL community. Goodbye for now.